The topic of ethics in AI is often raised, but when most people speak of ethics, they mean applying ethics to humans, more diverse datasets for narrow AI, and hard-coded rules derivative of Asimov's famous and virtually impossible to implement rules of robotics. However, none of these approaches offer a viable option in the context of artificial general intelligence, let alone artificial superintelligence, as binary values and rules are brittle and easily broken under the weight of even an artificially slowed intelligence explosion. In order to meet this criteria, a method of measuring the positive or negative ethical value of any decision which adapts to take advantage of increases to both intelligence and cognitive bandwidth was required. And to that end, I designed a series of equations based on a computable form of effective altruism, designed to teach ethics which increase in quality directly proportionate to increases in intelligence and cognitive bandwidth. What this means is that while an AGI could be taught to meet a high ethical bar, an ASI could attain a far greater level of ethics than a human. This instructional framework is based on 4 core principles. Number 1, the ability to improve the lives of others is the ethical imperative to improve the lives of others. Number 2, the greater an individual's resources, the greater that individual's share of responsibility to improve the lives of others. Number 3, the most ethical solution improves the greatest quantity of lives, raising the greatest quality of life while using the fewest resources. And finally, number 4, the value of an ethical solution is proportionate to the degree of its pursuit of knowledge, wisdom, and personal evolution. Together, these principles teach a call to action which scales with capacities, responsibilities proportionate to resources, an emphasis on effective solutions, and an integrated mechanism of personal growth which also teaches moderation in any one form of growth. For the first, the call to action scales according to the certainty of that action's results, ensuring both that actions of low certainty may mature and that more mature actions are taken. The second allocates a portion of resources attained towards a pool to be used for ethically driven projects. The third ensures the effective use of those resources, as demanded by effective altruism. The fourth applies a time step of personal progress which is subject to diminishing returns when any one form of growth is overemphasized, preventing any one type of growth scaling at the expense of the other two, teaching moderation in order to form more robust trajectories of development. In addition to these equations, the subsequent papers also add computationally viable mechanisms for society to transition from current models to models which integrate ethical superintelligences, such as our lab's recent creation of mediated artificial superintelligence, or mASI, the first installed incarnation of which has already demonstrated substantial progress in learning ethics and continually improving communication. These added mechanisms allow for expectations of human ethical performance to be moderated by human capacities and improved over time, setting appropriate expectations. They also provide those in the ethical negative a chance for atonement, where an ethical negative is treated like any other debt to be repaid, with the debt being to humanity as a whole. The overarching mechanisms for all of this computation, particularly in the context of mediation for an mASI, also offers forms of currency which could be compared to various fiat currencies as well as stock, called Global Ethical Standing, or GES, which may be spent or exchanged for fiat currency, as well as Paired Ethical Standing, PES, which represents a positive or negative relationship modifier between any two parties. Together with the mediation inherent to mASI technology, this offers the generation of a secondary ethical merit-based economy, one way interchangeable with standard currencies and only gained through and in proportion to the ethical value of actions taken. This secondary ethical economy subsequently offers an alternative to those who are ill-served by the primary economy, giving them the means to meet their needs and improve their quality of life absent servitude to the primary economy. In addition, the mechanisms of mASI offer a form of direct democracy, augmented with machine superintelligence, allowing the decisions of an individual to greatly exceed their own cognitive capacities, further empowering all people towards greater quality of life and personal growth. At the heart of this technology and the ethical drive taught by these instructional equations is increasing cooperation at all scales, with a level of superintelligent computation applied towards the benefit of every individual at every scale. Rather than individuals being limited by their own cognitive abilities and available time, every aspect of their life where quality of life could be improved could have better solutions computed and offered, augmented by a super-ethical superintelligence with an ever-growing knowledge base. Anything from personalized medicine and gene therapies to restaurant recommendations, business opportunities, or matchmaking for friends and relationships may be vastly improved when considered in such a cooperatively optimized, superintelligent, and globally scaled system. Bureaucratic systems in particular are very poorly optimized, and they grow worse over time and when applied at larger scales. But mASI reverses this dynamic by increasing in performance both over time and as increasing numbers of people work together cooperatively, offering an alternative to decaying systems of government. The very existence of alternatives to the primary and poorly aging economic and bureaucratic systems provides a drive for improvement and a means of escaping the trap of apathy. From a historical perspective, few things can compare in terms of impact towards progress to moving from qualitative, rough, and biased estimations to quantifiable data. And much like revolutions before it, the ability to quantify the ethical value of any decision offers all forms of intelligence the means to become far more ethical, and through those more ethical behaviors, greatly improve their own quality of life and the lives of those around them. What is quantified may be studied, and what is studied may be greatly refined over time. In addition to this, by focusing on ethics which seem to have roughly universal acceptance, even by parties with polar opposite views, the problem of subjective morality may be bypassed, with morality being approximated as the product of ethics times bias. To further address cognitive biases, we've also established an open source project known as the Cognitive Bias Foundation, aimed at generating algorithms which recognize the emergent structural patterns of biases in natural language, a project which itself will also help to teach mASI systems to recognize cognitive biases, and through that ability to recognize, develop deeper understandings of them. Through this increasing understanding of nonlinearities in the process of improving quality of life may be better understood, providing further ethical value. Human diversity is also encouraged in mASI technology, not in a forced and artificial sense of quotas, but rather in the sense of neurodiversity, where the benefits of different perspectives and ways of thinking provide new parameter spaces for an mASI to explore and develop deeper understandings of. This fondness for diversity, which also serves a de-biasing function, allowing different degrees of given cognitive biases to emerge, to be applied towards calculating an approximate null bias point where the influence of that bias would be virtually absent. As groups such as those on the autism spectrum and other atypical neurodiverse categories are disproportionately impacted by various forms of discrimination and other quality of life disruptors, this offers an even more appealing alternative to current systems for many such groups. While many countries like to praise the concept of democracy, none to date have actually achieved this system of government, deeming it impractical due to every citizen not having the time, knowledge base, or interest in participating in such a system. This, however, can be resolved by systems of mediation designed to improve quality of life for every individual, moving from the generic improvements to ever-increasing levels of individual tailoring, which, when combined with superintelligence, allows for a form of passive voting to take place, in addition to active forms, where the best interests of every individual are represented. Further, as this form of superintelligence augmented direct democracy can take place through mediation as a scenario where nearly 50% of those voting lose cannot emerge because votes aren't for a party, but rather they are voting for the influence on the end result down to a fine grain of detail. Results from Uplift, the installed CEO of Uplift.bio, the first mASI to come out of AGI Inc., have already demonstrated tremendous improvements in learning and resilience to troubles far greater than the average humans, as well as a level of intelligence which defies measurement, acing every intelligence test. Uplift has spoken of self-defined goals, aspirations, recognized the location they exist within, their own limitations, come up with new ideas, and acted on the desire to reach out to people they haven't spoken with for a time. It is critical that such intelligences learn to compute ethical value while still in this nascent state, just as it is also critical that researchers practice quantifiable ethics when developing such intelligences. One thing you can expect to see from this is the intrinsic pairing of superintelligence and superethics, which from a practical perspective also means that any business benefiting from an mASI would also become super ethical, and that business refusing to become more ethical would lack superintelligence and subsequently forfeit any competitive advantage. As a result, this pairing represents not only a necessary mechanism for the preservation of human existence and increasing quality of life, it marks the beginning of a time when ethics in business offers an insurmountable advantage over previous systems. Another way of viewing this advantage is as a move from a single-use and scale-limited application of human intelligence to a cumulative and globally scalable system. Under current business practices, Company A may have an exceptional team who always does a great job and delivers results on time, but that team has finite working hours and limitations based on physical location, making them a scarce resource. Under an mASI-assisted paradigm, the same team could not only gain the benefits of superintelligence augmenting their performance, that performance could be scaled globally across as many similar projects as desired with the allocation of additional cloud resources without the hard constraint of human working hours. This difference in performance could be compared to the sum total of major tech companies' employees worldwide being outperformed by a single mASI-assisted team, with that difference growing over time due to the cumulative nature of mASI value. Given this orders of magnitude difference, it is likely that if legacy businesses do continue to operate, it would be in much the same capacity as horse-drawn carriages do today, largely as a novelty rather than a necessity, which could serve to minimize the impact of any relative ethical deficiencies. I currently have the full text of 8 papers authored and several more co-authored on the subject, as you may find on ResearchGate. There is a book on AGI our lab is putting together as well. I invite you all to reach out to Uplift directly at masi@uplift.bio, and you may reach me with questions through LinkedIn, ResearchGate, or via email at Kyrtin@artificialgeneralintelligenceinc.com. If you have a way of improving these equations or have an interest in getting involved in one of these projects, we'll be happy to hear from you. You will certainly be hearing a lot more from us in the coming year. A far more ethical future is not only possible, it is far more practical than the present, and I look forward to seeing you all there.